Welcome back into the Locker Room, presented by Ted's Floors and Beyond. I'm your host, Namath Pitts, and we are back from sunny Orlando, Florida. After a missed flight and some couple other flight issues yesterday, we apologize. We are back, and we're talking playoff football. Now, we have a lot of teams right here in North Alabama that will either A, be making the 4 to 5 hour trip down south to Mobile, or we've got teams from Mobile that will be making the 4 to 5 hour trip up here north. That's how the AHSA lining works sometimes. And so we will be joined today by a really good friend of mine, and he is probably one of the best in the state of Alabama, maybe the Southeast. He probably wouldn't give himself that type of credit, but I will. Everybody knows Gerhard from his time right here in East Alabama. Gerhard, it's good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining us today.
Likewise, man. It's been a different year. I've spent 14 years of the Northeast area. The first football season down here. It's been really interesting. And then now with these first-round playoffs, with the 1 seeds and 4 seeds, and then Region 1 and Region 4 matching up, it's kind of perfect.
Absolutely. So Gerhard, my good friend from Mobile, I thought, hey, we have to get him on when the playoffs roll around to help give you guys more information on these teams that you're not familiar with. You know, for you Jacksonville fans, you may not know a whole lot about Bayside Academy, or for you Walter Wellborn fans, you may not know anything about Flomaton, rather than obviously when they won the state championship a couple years ago against Piedmont. But that's what Gerhard's going to help do for us today, is help give us more information, analyze some of these teams down south so that you have a better idea of what to expect this Friday. But as always, don't forget to like our East Alabama Now page. We're here every afternoon, Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. with all your local sports, not just high school football, but youth football as well. We're going to be out this Saturday at Jacksonville, Alexandria, and Wellborn, getting highlights of the youth football playoffs for the Northeast Alabama Youth Athletics. And then don't forget to follow our EAN News page. We're here every afternoon, or evening, I should say, at 6:30 p.m. Mike Stedham and Katie Edwards have your local news. John Holder with your local weather, and I bring you your local sports. And so, man, I'm excited to talk playoff football. So let's get straight into the action and start in Class 6A. Coach Sam Adams and the Oxford Yellow Jackets come into the playoffs. They're having a very good season so far. They're the number 1 seed in Class 6A Region 6, and they are hosting Athens. Phillip Rivers, former high school. This is where he played high school football at. And they don't have a Phillip Rivers at quarterback, but they've got a good one. Gerhard, I know you're in Mobile, but what's your thoughts on Oxford from afar this season?
This is an Oxford team I really been excited about watching, because it feels like this is a team that's been building for a long time. They had to play as 8th graders, 9th graders, 10th graders, 11th, juniors at some point. Now they're all seniors. The leaders of this team are all seniors. And it feels like this is the team that was going to be the crescendo. And we're getting it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach Sam Adams' team was thrown into the fire the past couple of years when he first came in, having to play a lot of young guys. But the way they've responded this year, being a little bit older, a little bit more mature, and Mason Mims and Kamari Hampton have been quite the connection right there from quarterback to wide receiver. Thomas can run the ball really hard, and it's a very much improved defense. And what really stands out to me about Oxford is not just them beating Jacksonville, which was kind of expected, but it's the way they beat Jacksonville, who is a really good 4A program. They essentially shut Jim Ogles down, and I believe that Jim Ogles is very underrated, committed to play college football at Troy, and I think that he's really as good of a quarterback as they could potentially see in the playoffs. And so I was very impressed by the way they kind of shut Jim Ogles down last week and beat Jacksonville. For Athens, guys, we talked with Coach Sam Adams, and he talked about they're very similar in a lot of ways. Their passing numbers are very similar. They have a really good quarterback right there who's the coach's son, so he plays like a coach's son in the way he kind of reads a field, reads plays, makes decisions. They run kind of a 3-4 stack on defense, a team that played really strong this year, beat Fort Payne right there with a 2-point conversion at the end of the game. They lost to Hartselle right there, 1 possession. Other than that, they had a Muscle Shoals loss, but this is a really good team, a really good 3 seed coming into Lamar Field. So the Oxford Yellow Jackets will open their playoff goals and aspirations against Athens at Lamar Field. Let's talk about one of those South teams that Gerhard covers week in, week out, that is led by a legend, and that is UMS Wright. I don't know that there is, let me rephrase this, I know there is not a better coaching matchup in round 1 than the one we're getting with UMS Wright in Central Clay County.
16 rings between Coach Horn and Coach Terry Curtis. over 600 wins. I think it's knocking on the door 700, if not more. This is, to me, a classic matchup that you can't script any way, because you have two teams. I think that this is not the best UMS team. And to me, Central play after losing their running back, this is probably a hampered Vols teams. But you could tell that with both these coaches and the way that they organize, they structure their teams, they'll play their best game coming up on Friday night. This is, to me, a dream matchup. I got a chance to talk to Tommy, who you all know really well, and he said it perfectly. Like that pregame handshake, that pregame the huddle between those two, and just the mind meld that you'll get between Coach Horn and Coach Terry Curtis. I think that there's so much football knowledge in there. There's so much knowledge about how to build teams, and the way that they've done it, it reminds me a little bit of Coach Saban. They've had to do it so much through the differing times of high school football, knowing how much the game has changed, knowing that they've gone from teams defending the wing T all the way to the spread, throwing it 50 times per game. Different players that have come through, different coaches that have come through. The assistant coaches that have now broken off, created their own programs, and started their own seeds. I think that this is a dream matchup in so many different ways. Look, I know both teams probably right now a little hampered going into the playoffs with both the Vols and the Bulldogs, but this is a dream matchup. I would love to see us in a state championship game. I would love to see us in a semifinal game, but you'll take it any way you can get it.
Yeah, and guys, the one that is going to be shooting the highlights of this game is this guy right here. So I'm going to get to be the one that gets to see the handshake. I'm going to get to be the one that gets to see these two teams go head-to-head in the first round of the playoffs. This may be the most exciting first-round game I think I can remember, like, personally, that I've been like, man, I can't believe these two historic teams are meeting in the first round, and I get to be there. Like, that is what is taking place with Terry Curtis and Danny Horn. And, people are already asking that question. Does Danny Horn keep going past this year, or does he kind of hand this off to his son, knowing that the next 2 years this is going to be a powerhouse that could probably win the state championship? And so, nothing's been said out loud, but Danny Horn, like, is this the last ride? Like, we don't know,
right.
Or is he going to keep going? And, he's like, hey, I want more, I'm going to get more. But this is going to be a good one. Like you said, for Central Clay being someone, obviously you know a lot, but I'm going to kind of speak from our team's perspectives and let you kind of give us more on this is this is not the same Central Clay team that it was 1 week ago.
Yeah.
As most of you know, not only did they lose one of their top running backs 2 weeks ago, last week they lost their other running back to an ankle injury. So they are essentially coming into this game with UMS Wright with a third-string running back. Now, third-string running back at Clay Central is still a lot better than first-string running backs at other schools. But this is about the worst time of the year for Central Clay to get hit by the injury bug. And so you've got to wonder, he has been down at times where he would just run the wishbone, and there's been other times where he spreads it out. You wonder if he's going to have to focus now on his quarterback and trying to put the ball in the air a little bit more and using his wide receivers. So that's something to keep an eye on. And, I even asked somebody this week, I said, what's the possibility of UMS Wright, a 4-seed, getting an upset over a 1-seed Central Clay, which you feel like would never happen? And that person told me, well, this is a very big possibility because of the injuries that Central Clay is facing. Now, for anybody that's watching this that's a Central Clay fan or they're not familiar with UMS Wright, even though they've been a powerhouse, what can they expect from this UMS Wright team this season?
This UMS Wright team is a little bit different than most. I think the biggest difference with this team is that they still play incredible defense. They are a really, really good defensive club. I've seen this team 3 times now. Saw them at the beginning of the year in the Battle of Old Shell Road against St. Paul's, which is actually just like I can walk to St. Paul's from where I live right now over in Midtown Mobile. Then I saw them last week. I saw them middle of the year as well against BC Rain. Then I saw them last week against Williamson. Their offensive numbers won't blow you away. Their offensive stats won't blow you away. In fact, they needed a double pass in order to score a touchdown to beat Williamson, a three-win Williamson team. Late in that one, 2019 was the final in that one. They have a quarterback named Joe Lott, who's actually going to Troy. You mentioned the quarterback for Oxford going to Troy as well. But Joe Lott's going to Troy as a safety. He's a really good safety. He plays both ways. He's a good quarterback that likes to run the football, but they don't have a true passing threat that'll take you for 300 yards a game. They like to mix and match. They're a really physical football team. But their offense has seemed they just kind of had to piece together the offense over the course of the year. They're big, they're physical, they play a lot of good defense. And so if there's going to be a wrinkle being thrown from the Vols, whether they throw the ball a little bit more, as you alluded to just a moment ago, or if they have a little bit of a different approach, maybe they continue to run the ball, but they do so maybe with some counters, or throw a little bit of a different scheme at UMS Wright. That's what I'm willing to see. That's what I want to see, because honestly, Namath, I think if this game was in week 3, I think we get a completely different game than we do right now in the first round of the playoffs, just because of the personnel and based on who these two teams are. So I'm really excited to see this one, and I think it plays out a little bit differently than we might have thought just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. And the winner of this would obviously like their chances against Holtville or Headland in round 2, which would set up. And now Charles Henderson is a sneaky good team that is going to face Gulf Shores more than likely in the second round. Now, the whole story about Gulf Shores and everything that took place, at the end of the day, they're playing football in the playoffs. And this is a team that both of these teams are looking at potentially in round 3. And that game, more than likely, again, Charles Henderson's that sneaky team that last year was a 2 seed and went on the run that nobody thought they could. They're going to look to do the same again this year. But, that one, I believe, is setting up to be at Gulf Shores in round 3. So you could see Central Clay down in Gulf Shores round 3, or you could see UMS Wright and Gulf Shores rematch. So that's what we're looking at. Us media people, we like to do all the buttering up for the later rounds. But like you said, UMS Wright's quarterback committed to play at Troy, where he'll be joined by Jacksonville quarterback Jim Ogles, not Oxford. It'll be Jacksonville.
That's right. You're right.
Mason Mims still has another year, getting some more offers. Just recently got an offer from Louisville, who, as most of you know, has had a really good year this year in the ACC. But let's keep talking. Let's talk Philip Rivers and St. Michael's Catholic School. People around here probably don't have a dang clue about St. Michael's. I know they're in the middle of a field in nowhere, basically down there, G. And they're going to go to a field in the middle of nowhere called Hanley. And Larry Strain is another historic coach that is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. Talk about this St. Michael's team that's making the trip to what was predicted by some to be the winner of 4A before the season. Obviously, a lot of people are now talking about Jackson, and we're going to talk about them in a minute. But St. Michael's is going to Hanley. Talk about St. Michael's a little bit.
Yeah, I've got a chance to cover them twice. They are a Catholic school, as you mentioned it. They are in the middle of nowhere. We went to their campus just a couple of weeks ago. Martin Cordy, their running back, was our player of the week for the 5th quarter in the WKRG. And great kid. He's a part of a really great story. It's a senior class that this year has kind of taken over the reins. At WKRG this past spring, we did a special feature called 33 Teams in 33 Days. Basically a preview during spring practice of the way all these teams look going into the year. You couldn't make any real predictions as far as wins and losses. You couldn't walk onto a campus and say, well, this team, 8 wins, second round playoffs. But you could see some teams that were growing. And it's like we talked about with Oxford just a moment ago. Oxford was a team that they had to play a lot of young guys early. They learned through the fire. It's kind of a baptism through fire. And now is the turn for that senior class to take that next step. That's exactly where St. Michael is right now. This is a program that they have a lot of leadership. They have a really big, strong, good offensive line. And you mentioned it. You mentioned Rivers. You mentioned it as it relates to his time at Athens. And now Rivers as not only the coach, but Gunnar Rivers is the quarterback for this football team. And at one point, I have to go back and look at all the numbers to see where he ended the year. But at one point, he was leading the state in passing yards. I think at one point he had like 17 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. Just a dynamic player. This is not nepotism or anything. This is a really good quarterback that just happens to be the son of a possible Hall of Famer, definitely an All-Pro, and a really, really, really good quarterback and good dad as far as the way that their interaction goes. I had a chance to catch up with both Philip and Gunnar a few times throughout the course of the year, and you could tell when Coach Rivers has the coach hat on and when Coach Rivers has the dad hat on. And it's a beautiful thing. And so this is a team that can do both. That's what makes the Cardinals so dangerous. They can run it and they can throw it. Last year they were a game away from the playoffs. And so I think they're not taking anything for granted right now. This is the first time ever in program history They're making the playoffs. Really a lot of exciting times right now because a few weeks ago, about a month ago actually, they announced that they're going to be building an on-campus stadium. They had a big donor come in and give a lot of money. I think you can take a couple guesses about who that big donor was. But they have a really strong program that is building right now. And now I can't forecast they'll go all the way to state semifinals, but this is a team that's doing all the things that you need to be doing well at the right time. And they're a healthy bunch. We talked about how health can really battle teams throughout the course of the year. So as of right now, this is a really strong St. Michael team. And I do think that they'll give Hanley a run for their money. Now, Hanley has the prestige. They have the rings. Coach Larry Strain has been there and done that before. This is a St. Michael team that's doing everything new for the first time. This is the first ever team to make a playoff. This is the first ever team that's going to make a long playoff road trip to Hanley to go play a really good football team. Now, it's one of those situations to where we've seen this before in basketball where sometimes what you don't know, being naive to things, kind of helps you out because you don't have the pressure of what it's like doing it before. And sometimes it really helps the team that's been there and has the experience. So I'm really excited to see this one. I'm really excited to see how this one plays out between a really good St. Michael team and obviously a well-coached, very athletic, very good Hanley team. Yeah,
experience definitely favors Larry Strain's team. Cannon Kyles has been a very good quarterback for the Hanley Tigers, and E.J. Goss has done a great job this year stepping in, running back. This is a team that if they are playing their best ball, this team might not get beat in 4A, period. But the thing that Larry Strain's team has struggled to do at times this season is be disciplined. I noticed Mumford, a lot of penalties late in the season. And so if this is a team that can play disciplined football, I genuinely think they can go through the gauntlet of Jackson and Andalusias and whatever they may face, but it just comes down to disciplined football, and Larry Strain is as disciplined and as good of a coach as you want for that. But Phillip Rivers, that name alone obviously could spark some players to want to get up for this one extra because you have a NFL Hall of Fame quarterback on the opposite sideline, even as a coach. And this side of the bracket on 4A South, this is the toughest little side right here with Jackson and Cleburne County, and then Andalusia right there, and Sipsey, and then Hanley, and then American Christian Academy. So you've got Jackson, Andalusia, Hanley, and American Christian Academy all right here. Now, the next game we're going to talk about is Bayside Academy Admirals and the Jacksonville Golden Eagles. Now, this one doesn't look as bad. Now, look, Bibb County and Montgomery Academy are no slouch of teams, and Montgomery Catholic and T.R. Miller are sure good, but Jackson, Andalusia, Hanley, and American Christian, if I'm Jacksonville, I like this little section right here if I'm trying to get to the semifinals. But for Bayside Academy, I can go ahead and tell you, people around here don't know a dang thing about them. So why don't you go ahead and tell us about Bayside Academy?
I think most people know Bayside for their volleyball.
Yes, 21
straight.
Really,
really great volleyball program. 21 straight state championships before this past year. Coach Ann Schilling and company. A good shout out, a huge shout out to them. We've covered them all year long, and I know that this is a team that didn't win it, but just an unbelievable run. I don't think we'll ever see it again in our lifetimes. So that's all the Bayside volleyball. Now, to the football team, I got a chance to talk to them as well during both of our 33 teams and covered Bayside a couple of times this year. I covered the Bayside Jackson game, which was really telling about how good Jackson is because Bayside's a really good football team. But Bayside's a team that's coached by Barrett Trotter. We talked about, coaches that were once star players. This is another one, not only Phillip Rivers, but Barrett Trotter. You might remember that name. He played on those Auburn teams a little after Cam Newton and Bunch were down there on the Plains. But this is a really good Bayside Academy team. They have a big offensive line. Graham Uter, who's going to South Alabama, just a really big physical presence there at tackle. Sammy Dunn is their quarterback. He's a first-year quarterback. He's a baseball guy. Led the baseball team, the Admirals in baseball this past year, had a really strong run. They ended up having a player that's going to Vanderbilt now on the graduating class of 2023, so he was a senior last year. But a lot of those baseball players play football, and so they didn't have a spring. So they ended up doing this skill development. So after the baseball season, literally the day after baseball ended, we were there on campus. They were already knee-deep into football, and Coach Barrett Trotter was instilling their offense and instilling his philosophy and some of the things that he wanted to do within the program, and they've hit the ground running. They've really taken his knowledge, his expertise, because he's been on the college level, He's been on the high school level. He went to Briarwood, obviously spent some time at Auburn as well as a coach. And so he's really hit the ground running with this team. They have a lot of belief going into this year. They're on a 4-game winning streak, I believe, going into the playoffs. And so this is a team to me that I think is playing some really good football. They know who they are, but everything's new to them with this head coach, with Barrett Trotter as their head coach. But Sammy Dunn is their quarterback, as I talked about earlier. Even though he's known for baseball, I think that he actually going to be a better football player before it's all said and done. This is his first year starting at quarterback, but he's just taken the reins over as a true leader of this football program. He can put the ball through the air. They have a guy named T. Bradford. That is a really good wide receiver. He's a baseball player. He actually signed yesterday on National Signing Day to play baseball at Stanford, I believe. And so he's a really good, big physical presence out there on the outside. And so Jacksonville's secondary will have their hands full here in this matchup. We talked about the experience factor again. We talked about it in the St. Michael Hanley game. I think a lot of the same things are at play here. Bayside, they have experience in the playoffs, but they don't have experience with this coach, with this coaching staff, with this scheme, with these guys in the playoffs. So how will they handle taking that long trip over from the middle of Baldwin County all the way up over into Calhoun County? I've done that trip a few times since I've moved down here, and it's a haul. So can they stay focused? Can they stay plugged in and then locked in? And then when they get to Golden Eagle Stadium, can they execute? That's going to be the biggest thing. But on paper, this is a really, really good football team. Jacksonville's a really hard team to beat. I've covered Jacksonville for a lot of years. They're at home. Really hard team to beat there at home. And you know that they're itching to get back after losing to Oxford last week. You know they're itching to get back on and get a good taste in their mouth once again. So this is a challenge, I think, for the Admirals. But I think it's an Admiral team that has that athletes to get it done. Now, whether they actually go into Jacksonville and win the football game, I think it's a tough task for the Admirals. I think that if I'm making a prediction, I think Jacksonville wins that game. It won't be easy, though. I think of both of the teams that are coming from Baldwin County, St. Michael and Bayside Academy will give both of those teams up there a run for their money. But I think that the teams that are at home, they're on the northern part of the southern bracket, will be the favorites going into that matchup tomorrow.
Well, for Bayside Academy, their secondary is definitely going to have to be playing top-notch football Friday night if they want a chance to win this game, because the one thing about Jacksonville is they are going to spread you out and throw the ball. Jim Ogles is going to find Kedrick Fisher. 5 new offensive linemen this year, but you wouldn't be able to tell it because this team has just stepped right in, these offensive linemen, and not missed a single beat. And so Jacksonville, we all know, they feel like they have as good of a chance as anybody in 4A. They know that Jackson is good, and they know they lost to Hanley, and that's one they really want back is that Hanley one. So it's going to be interesting to see how Clint Smith's Jacksonville Golden Eagles do in the playoffs. But certainly, when it comes to Jacksonville, they're going to throw the ball with Jim Ogles, and that is not a mystery to anybody else. But their running game is very underrated. Hey, don't go away, guys. We're going to take a break real quick. When we come back, we're going to talk more playoff football. We're going to look more at these South teams with Gerhard. Don't go away. You're watching The Locker Room, presented by Ted's Floors and Beyond.
Ted's Floors and Beyond is excited to introduce our all-new outdoor living collection. Have you ever dreamed of elevating or even creating an outdoor living space, whether it be for grilling, lounging, playing, entertaining, or just winding down? Our quality tile and stone, combined with our expert craftsmanship, will no doubt create unforgettable outdoor moments with family and friends, while also enhancing the beauty and value of your home. Call us today.
For metal buildings in Alabama and the Southeast, Waldrop Manufacturing is your one-stop source. A Waldrop metal building provides the coverage and protection your investments need. They specialize in carports, RV covers, portable buildings, and storage buildings. Stop paying rent for storage. With Waldrop's price per foot, you can actually save money by buying straight from the manufacturer. Waldrop buildings are guaranteed because Waldrop manufactures buildings with U.S. steel right here in Calhoun County. Waldrop Manufacturing, serving the entire Southeast. Give them a call today. For over 60 years, Oxford Lumber has been servicing our area, and our customer service has always been our main focus. Our customer service is what sets us apart from anyone else. From the moment you enter, our highly trained staff will treat you like family.
To enthusiastically provide total customer satisfaction within a positive and self-fulfilling employee relations environment. Visit us at any of our 4 locations or at oxfordlumber.com.
Since 1993, WM Grocery has been a major part of our local community. WM offers the very best in fresh produce and an outstanding meat department. WM also has many local products not found anywhere else and fresh sushi every day. If you need an event catered, come see Mrs. K at any WM store. Curbside pickup is also available for your online grocery orders. Be sure to download the WM app for all the deals of the week and shopper rewards. Go check them out today at any of their locations.
We take pride in our community and appreciate your business.
Ted's Floors and Beyond brings you the locker room each and every day. Ted's Floors and Beyond has all your flooring needs, whether it's hardwood, laminate, carpet, tile, or luxury vinyl. They have it for you right there at Ted's. You can go by their showroom there in Anniston. You can pick out what you like, want, and need, and they can do that there at Ted's. Also, they've got their partnership with Welborn Cabinet and will offer you a complete kitchen or bath makeover. That includes cabinets, countertops, flooring, backsplashes, tile showers. They can get it done there at Ted's Floors and Beyond. And now they offer you work on your outdoor space, whether it's an outdoor kitchen, patio, or living space. They have specially made outdoor tiles and stones that can enhance your outdoor experience. So go by and see them today at their showroom in Anniston on Highway 431 right before you get to Sachs Elementary School, or visit them online at shopteds.com. That is shopteds.com. Ted's Floors and Beyond brings you the locker room. I'm Namath Pitts, the host of the locker room. We're talking playoff football right here. We have officially reached the first round of the HSA state playoffs, and we are previewing all of the matchups. And there are a lot of our North Alabama teams that are making the trip to Mobile, or vice versa. Teams from Mobile are making the trip up here to North Alabama to Calhoun County. And we are talking with Gerhard Mathangati, who works down in Mobile. He is big time now, Mr. Big Time down there at WKRG, right? WKRG?
That's correct. WKRG News 5. We have the 5th quarter. It's our Friday night high school football wrap-up show. It's been a real hit, and people. This is what I said about down here is that it's so similar. There's almost carbon copies of one another. How much their football, just like they do in Calhoun, Cleburne, St. Clair, Etowah, Talladega County, and it's the exact same down here. Bigger schools down here. It's a concentration of schools in Mobile, Baldwin County, but it's been really fun. And the playoffs, obviously are here tonight for some teams that are down here, and the bulk of those games obviously going on tomorrow.
Yeah, we got a couple games tonight as well. Cherokee County is at home tonight. Southside Gadsden's at home tonight. Wadley's playing at home tonight. Really good 1A team this year. Wadley has a running back right there in Wilkes that is big. Family name, his older, I believe it's his brother played running back, obviously.
Terrence,
D1. So great Thursday night football in this area as well. But let's go into the action, and let's start with a team that everybody knows about. Keith Etheridge even had a tenure at this school at one time, and that is T.R. Miller. Anniston Bulldogs are going on the road to face T.R. Miller. This has been an Anniston team that we still haven't figured out yet, and I think that's what's crazy to say is it's the playoffs, and we still don't really know what Anniston team we're going to get. That one week they look like this could be a usual Anniston deep playoff team, and then the next week they're almost losing to Cleburne County. I mean, right. Welborn put them on the brinks there in week 0. So this is just a very up and down Anniston team. They're going against T.R. Miller. For people around here that don't know a thing about T.R. Miller other than it's been a traditional winning program, tell us a little bit about T.R. Miller.
At powerhouse. I mean, it's powerhouse of the past. And I think that a lot of people will see T.R. Miller. They've seen the championships. You mentioned Keith Etheridge has been there. They have a lineage of coaches that have gone into that program over in Bruton and just done very, very well. But this is a similar T.R. Miller team the way you're describing Anniston. This is not your typical team that has been dominant. I think a lot of that dominance is kind of carried over to Jackson. I think that there's still a lot of talent there. It's a team that really likes to run the football. They've done a great job with that. Coming off of a big win, the Battle of Murder Creek, from what I've heard, is the big matchup between W.S. Neal and T.R. Miller, and T.R. Miller obviously has the bragging rights going into this one. So T.R. Miller has some of the momentum going into this matchup. But I think that for people who are used to seeing T.R. Miller in the top 5 of the final state rankings and the team that everybody expects to make a run, a deep run. Don't know if that's this year's team. I think this is a really interesting matchup as Anniston comes down here. Anniston has a lot of players in that locker room that made those long trips down south, whether it's to Williamson a couple of years ago and a few others. So this is a really interesting matchup, in my opinion. T.R. Miller is a team, like I said, that loves to run the football, on a really good winning streak right now, play some really good defense as well. I think that they've lost some games that they probably would want to have back. But every team down here in Region 1 and Class 4 Region 1 is battle-tested. That's the biggest thing. I think Jackson obviously sits at the top of the heap. They're 9-0. But every other team, whether it's Bayside Academy, whether it's T.R. Miller, W.S. Neal, all these teams that are going into the end of the playoffs are all really battle-tested here.
Yeah, and one thing about T.R. Miller is they have 3 losses. And 2 of those losses are by combined 3 points. They lost to St.
Correct.
Michael's right there by 1 point in overtime, and that was a shootout, 54-55 right there. And then Utah.
Controversial.
Yeah, they lost to UMS Wright by 2 points. I mean, to lose to UMS Wright by 2 points, I don't care if they're a 4 seed this year in their region. That to play them to that level speaks about T.R. Miller's talent. But Anniston has a lot of speed, and T.R. Miller is going to have to be able to defend screen passes. They're going to have to be able to contain guys one-on-one on the outside. This is an Anniston team that they could cut it on right now, and they could go on that run. They could be that team that people go, where did this team come from? And it's not because they're not good. They just hadn't really put the pieces together all season. A lot of transfers. Gavin Doss came from Sachs to quarterback. You've still got Jaden J. Money Lewis right there, who decommitted from Auburn, but is still a SEC talented player. You've got Jaden Dobbins right there, who's a good player as well. T.K. Downey, who transferred in from Alexandria. Like, the talent is there, but what has really hurt Anniston this year is the line on both sides of the ball. Not having Raquez McElderry this year has certainly shown, and they've really struggled to stop teams that can do what you said T.R. Miller likes to do, and that's run the ball. They've really struggled with teams that run right at them. You look at their struggles this year. Hanley, what did Hanley do? They ran right at them. They beat Welborn, but they struggle with them at times. What did Welborn do? Ran right at them. They struggled against Cleveland County. They won, but what did Cleveland County do? They ran right at them. And then, of course, Jacksonville aired it out a little bit. So if T.R. Miller can definitely run the ball, I think a lot of people think that T.R. Miller is set up for success to maybe knock Anniston out in the first round, which hasn't happened in a little while. Just so you guys know, Anniston has obviously went on the road to Mobile and had that big upset just 2 years ago, came in last year. So this one's going to be one to keep an eye on. Cleveland County's in the playoffs for the first time since 2015. And
Sure.
Let me see what their prize is. Oh, it's a trip to Jackson to face what some people consider the best team in 4A. Are they as good as people say they are? I don't know. It's a dumb question. Just go ahead and tell us why they're as good as they are.
Probably better. I won't lie. This is a really, really good football team. Last week they beat Davidson. Davidson is a strong 7A Region 1 team. I know they're the 4 seed there, but MGM's really good. Baker's really good. But they beat that team 45-14 and probably could have been worse. If there is a better 4A team out there, I'm not making a prediction that they're going to win a state championship.
Oh.
But just player for player, if there's a better 4A team out there, I would love to see it. They have a really good quarterback named Landon Duckworth, really, really great kid. Big kid, 6'4", probably listed at 6'4", 6'5", somewhere in there. And he's got all the attributes. He reminds me of just like of maybe like a Trevor Lawrence, just like a big guy that can run. He doesn't have to run, but he can if he wants to. A little over 200 pounds, and they have weapons on the outside. They got Nico on the outside, another guy named Keon Red Chapman on the outside as well, and just powerhouse players. And I got a chance to talk to their principal a couple of weeks ago. They played Bayside Academy probably about 5-6 weeks ago. And he said our 24 class is really good. That's this year's graduating class. He's like, our 25, our 26, our 27 are outstanding.
Goodness.
Athletes everywhere. And they just take so much pride in what they do. They take so much pride in their athletics. They have so much pride in their sports. I had the pleasure of going up there a couple of weeks ago for our game of the week, and you could tell we had to get there. We do these things. I'll take you behind the curtain for a second. We do these things called live shots, and for our 5 o'clock show, our 6 o'clock show. So we have to get there relatively early. So for a game that kicks off at 7, I'm usually at the stadium by about 4:30. There are people getting ready for the game at 4:30 before the teams even got there. That's how much this community loves this football program and loves baseball. They're a really good baseball program as well. But just hardworking, blue-collar kind of people. And you mix that work ethic with the talent that they have, and that's where I think that is taking them over the top in the 2023 season. I know Catholic Montgomery is really good. I got a chance to see them week 1. They beat McGill-Tulane, the team that ended up getting better as the year went along. But Jackson, to me, they have everything. They have the defense. They have the weapons on the outside. They can run the football. They're a really big offensive line. They're disciplined. Coach Cody Flournoy, who's been there for about 6 years now, I believe, he's now got a team that the team 2 years ago made a run to the semifinals. A team probably could have won a state championship. Well, this year I think they have a similar team that they did 2 years ago. And you know that this year's seniors who were sophomores then, want to make that next run and get over the hump. I obviously anything could happen. And, you know, they call it any given Sunday in football. I do think any given Saturday in college football. I do think any given Friday in high school football. This is a tall task for Cleveland County, and there is zero shame in losing to this Jackson team. And I think walking off the bus for anybody that comes from the Heflin area that comes down to watch this game, walking off the bus, this Jackson team will impress you. In warm-ups, they'll impress you, and then when the ball's kicked off, they'll impress you as well. Really good football team. Like I said, I'm not going to make any predictions, but it's a tall task here for the Cleveland County Tigers. I think that there's some teams that can play 14 on 11 and not beat Jackson.
Yeah, I think Cleveland County could probably play 17 on 11. I don't know if they'd beat Jackson, to be honest, the way people say this team is. But Joey Burns' team has a lot of momentum because they went on the road last week and they had these if factors. You know, if they lose to Welborn, everybody thought they were going to lose to Welborn. You know, so if Northside loses, if White Plains beats Westbrook, just to get in the playoffs, and Cleveland County went into the Hill and they shut down Welborn. That was a big upset.
Mm-hmm.
That was a 7-2 Welborn team that people thought was going to end 8-2. Jeff Smith's team completely overexceeded expectations this season on what people thought they were going to do in the preseason. But needless to say, Cleveland County went to the Hill and got a monumental win for this program that clinched the playoff spot, and now they get the much-awaited trip to Jackson to face the Aggies. And if Jackson's going to do it, they've only given up double digits twice this year, and 14 was one of them, 21 was the other. Other than that, they've kept every opponent single digits. So that defensively, everybody talks about the offense of Jackson. What they're missing is how good they are defensively as well. But they're going to have to go through Andalusia. And then if you go through Andalusia, Hanley probably. And then if you go through Hanley, Montgomery Catholic or Jacksonville. I mean, the road to get there for whoever comes out of 4A South, they deserved it. That is for sure. And so Jackson is going to see a wing T offense. Speaking of wing T offenses, you were really close to this program for a couple years when you were up here. That's Walter Welborn. Jeff Smith's team started the year off against Anniston, gave them all they wanted, came up just short. They felt Ohatchee, who at the time, now I will say this, injuries killed Ohatchee. Ohatchee was on a 4-0 run right there, ran into Jacksonville non-region. I think they were 5-1 at one point, and then Jesse Baswell went down, Hester went down, their safety went down. I mean, it was like everything that happened at the beginning of last year happened midway this year. And obviously they end the year on a losing streak, but Welborn fell to that Ohatchee team. They hit region play. They go on a run, won every region game. The big win was down at Randolph County. They went on the road to Randolph County. That's a tough place to win. They went down there. Jeff Smith's team's done it, but then they fell to Cleveland County, and now people here are scratching their head as they enter the playoffs wondering, what Welborn team are we going to get? Well, Welborn, a lot like Central Clay, has really been bitten by the injury bug. They lost Carlos Hubbard earlier this year. They lost McCurry to a broke ankle just last week. But Jabari Williams is only a sophomore, Gerhard, and he's the real deal. So Welborn is only going to be better the next 2 years with him running the ball, you know. And so you know what Welborn's like. People around here, they don't know a dang thing about Flomaton other than they played Piedmont for a state championship a couple years ago. They're almost all the way down there in Florida. What can Welborn expect? For all my Welborn people that are watching, I'm a Welborn guy, okay? What can we expect from the Hurricanes of Flomaton?
This is a really good football team. Unfortunately, this is one of the few teams in our DMA, is what we call it, that I have not seen in person.
Got you.
I've seen some highlights of them. I have not seen them in person, though. But you mentioned it. I think that this is a Walter Welborn team that, in my opinion, they've always had this. It's kind of the next man up mentality. It is a kind of a workman's like approach to football. And if your number's called, you go. And Coach Smith is going to do everything that he can to instill the most confidence in you and bring out the best in you going into the year. And we've mentioned it with several teams now. Injuries play such a key role in the way that it shapes the season, whether you have your injuries at the beginning of the year or the end of the year. This is a team, as you mentioned, with Walter Welborn that got bit by the injury bug. And if not, maybe they have a different seeding and they don't have this game to start the playoffs. This Flemington team, to me, is they're a really strong football team, not as strong as that state championship team that obviously Piedmont played a few years back. Obviously, they would want a couple of those games back. They started off their year against some of those Florida teams. They're knocking right on the door of Florida. So it's the last, I believe, it's the closest school that touches whether the Alabama-Florida state line there. So it's one of the ones that you get to right before you cross the border into the Sunshine State. And so I think this is a really tough matchup for Walter Welborn, but a winnable one. Flemington, to me, obviously well coached, very, very well coached. They played some solid teams throughout the course of the year. Played Kissimmee, I think, at the beginning of the year. The way coaches talk to me about Flemington is it kind of depends on the team that you get. Game to game. I saw them in a couple of 7-on-7s in the summertime, and 7-on-7s don't really tell you everything, but they're a solid football team. Play some really good defense. To me, they're similar in a lot of ways to Walter Welborn, where they have a lot of pride in their program. They play a physical brand of football. But this one, to me, nobody's just going to walk on the field, roll the ball out, and you win just because you have Flemington on the side of your helmet. I think that they have to go out and earn this one. I think that Coach Jeff Smith and company will make them have to earn the win here at home.
Gee, for a team that's going to make the long trip all the way up north to Walter Welborn,
yep.
And when they drive over them railroad tracks, and you got Central City over here on one side, you got 202 on another, do you think Flemington has ever even been to a place like Welborn? Like, when they pull up at the Hill, this is going to be something they've never experienced. I mean, the Hill is a different place on a Friday night.
Oh, yeah. They will not experience whatever, like the magic of the Hill. It's the only thing I can call it. It just feels like magic on the Hill. They will never have experienced that in any place that they've been in the south part of Baldwin County, and not in a bad way. It's just that it's just different culture. It's a different culture over there in the Calhoun County area. So that part to them, I think we've talked a little bit about the mentality that you have to have and some of the things that drive you mentally as a football team. Well, you have to obviously play your environment as well. And that's something that Flemington will have to do really early on, because this is completely different from what they know down here. But yeah, it's a very, very long road trip. So we talked earlier about how far away they are. Just like with Bayside going to Jacksonville, that's what happens when Region 1 meets up with Region 4, and especially in 3A, 4A, and 5A, where it's miles between those two schools there. I think it's going to be really interesting for this Flemington team. Like I said, I don't want to make any predictions here. I do think Welborn gets it done there at home. It's not going to be easy, though. But I do think that the magic on the Hill has something to do with that as they play over there in Calhoun County.
All right, Hurricane fans, welcome to Welborn. Make sure you stop and get some Harper's ice cream on your way in. You will not be disappointed.
Yeah.
You've never had some homemade ice cream like that. All right, let's talk about the last game with us two together, G. It's WS Neal and Randolph County. There's a lot of people that do believe that 3A Region 4 right there could lose every game to 3A Region 1 in the first round. People feel like if anyone's going to win, it's going to be Welborn, but Randolph County is certainly going to have to play their best football if they're going to beat WS Neal.
Yeah, we've talked about Coach Presser's teams for a long time, and just the amount of success they've had in the playoffs for years and years and years. They're a team that is, to me, like a born teams that are like by the time they're 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, and they're running around there at the campus on campus and at the stadiums. They expect to win. And I think a lot of that kind of carries over into these type of games. Now, W.S. Neal is a team, just like with Flomaton, hadn't seen them a lot throughout the course of the year, seen them in highlights. Obviously, they have a sour taste in their mouth as this matchup as they go on the road to Randolph County. Lost that game to T.R. Miller and got beat pretty handily. 36-8 was the final in that one. And to me, it's a W.S. Neal team that they played a little up and down as the year has gone along. In my opinion, Randolph County is a stronger football team just by the strength of the team. But this W.S. Neal team, they're really confident as they go into it. It's another team that really likes to run the football. Can they pivot? Can they, box left-handed, so to speak, is the kind of the boxing metaphor? Can they switch to southpaw and play a different style if they have to? We will see. But this to me is a Randolph County team that I think they're playing well here towards the end of the year, and it's all where Coach Pressures got a chance to make a little school history there. So congratulations out to him. I haven't got a chance to talk to him in a really long time since being down here. But to me, this is a Randolph County team that it won't be handed to them. But I do think that the favorite going into this matchup as W.S. Neal to me is playing a little hampered, and obviously coming off that big loss to T.R. Miller over there at Burger Creek. But you mentioned it. There's a chance that Region 1 goes and sweeps. But I do think that we'll have some interesting matchups there, especially in those two games that we just mentioned there, the one at the Hill and the one over in Randolph County. I think those are the interesting ones. The other two, I do see the team out of Region 1 getting the victory there. But the ones that are there at the Hill in Cleveland County and the one over there at Randolph County over in the Wedowee area, do think that those are more toss-ups to me. And we'll see how they all play out between Flomaton and W.S. Neal making that long trip up there.
All right. Well, like I said, it's going to be interesting to watch. I think a lot of people know Beulah and Dadeville is going to fall, but they really are interested to see what's going to happen with Randolph County, W.S. Neal, and really interested to see what's going to happen with Wellborn and Flomaton. But Gerhard, that is all of the games with your teams against our teams. And so, I appreciate you joining us today, buddy.
Yeah, we knew when the bracket came out there was going to be some great matchups between the teams that are in that northeast part of the state of Alabama who happen to play in the South and the teams that are down here. So I'm glad it worked out really magically, and maybe we'll come on a little bit later on as a follow-up after all the dust is settled and we move a little closer to crowning those state champions. But, yeah, it was a really fun time to be back on here and talk about some teams that I know from the past and talk about some teams that I know right now.
Absolutely. And like G said, hopefully if more of our teams face more teams from Mobile moving through in the playoffs, we can get reconnected and talk more. And as always, G, I'll be down in Tuscaloosa in December, as always, for the Super 7. And I'm assuming you'll be there, so I look forward to connecting then, buddy.
No doubt about it. Absolutely. And I'm sure we'll have lots of representation both your way and our way, and I can't wait.
All right, guys. Gerhard, Matt, and Gotti from WKRG down in Mobile. And we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to wrap things up with our last few games that are local versus local here in East Alabama. So don't go away. Again, you're watching the Locker Room presented by Ted's Floors and Beyond.
Ted's Floors and Beyond is excited to introduce our all-new outdoor living collection. Have you ever dreamed of elevating or even creating an outdoor living space, whether it be for grilling, lounging, playing, entertaining, or just winding down? Our quality tile and stone, combined with our expert craftsmanship, will no doubt create unforgettable outdoor moments with family and friends, while also enhancing the beauty and value of your home. Call us today.
Welcome to Room by Room Home Furnishings, a locally owned and operated furniture store located in Oxford, Alabama. We've been serving Northeast Alabama and the surrounding area since 2007. We offer stylish and affordable new arrivals and all the top trends to help you get a cozy and homey atmosphere with hand-picked home furnishings and decor to fit anybody's style and budget with knowledge, personality, and good vibes. Let Room by Room in Oxford, Alabama help you score amazing deals and turn your house into a home.
Wait! This isn't a game. It's your basement. It's filling with water. And even worse, it's 2 a.m. Who are you gonna call? Time's up. We'll come out 24/7, 365, any day, any time to put out any fires. Well, not actual fire. There's a better number for that. But when it comes to plumbing, call One Tom Plumbing.
Welcome back in the Locker Room, presented by Ted's Floors and Beyond. I'm your host, Namath Pitts. Don't forget to watch EAN News tonight at 6:30 p.m., where I'll have all of your local news, and we'll talk local sport. Well, I ain't going to have your local news. I'm going to have your local sports news. I don't do news. I leave that to Mike Stidham and Katie Edwards because I don't know what's happening around here news-wise. But I can tell you a little bit about what's happening local sports-wise. Sports-wise, we had National Letter of Intent Day yesterday. We're going to talk more of that. We're going to preview the Oxford Yellow Jackets home playoff game against Athens. So you're going to make sure you don't want to miss that at 6:30 p.m. Let's talk Piedmont Bulldogs. They're making the trip to J.B. Pennington, and the Piedmont Bulldogs are coming off a really stinger last week. They fell to Sylacauga, who was only one win at the time. Jonathan Miller's team's really been up and down. They've really had to overcome injuries, but I think if there's a team we have to keep an eye on that people are probably not really looking at, it's Piedmont in the playoffs. If there's a team that could pull some upsets and make a run, I think it's Piedmont. I think they're really... I like this matchup with J.B. Pennington. Now, shout out to my friend Brandon Taylor. His son plays for J.B. Pennington right there, and that's going to be a great first-round game between Piedmont and J.B. Pennington. They're really going to have to be able to J.B. Pennington is very balanced, and that's something that Piedmont's really going to have to do defensively is not commit so much to the run or commit so much to the pass. They're going to have to play really balanced defense. And for Jonathan Miller's team offensively, that's kind of where they've struggled most of the season. It's can you put enough points on the board to win the game? So I think the Piedmont Bulldogs and J.B. Pennington is going to be a great first-round game. The Hokes Bluff Eagles, they started off strong and down the stretch have really sizzled out a little bit. And they're going on the road to face a team that has been a powerhouse for 10-plus years. The Mustangs of Madison Academy. There was one point where you heard of Madison Academy, you thought Blake Coward, Kerryon Johnson, Malik Miller, Eric Kahoo. Well, all of those guys are gone, but Madison Academy is still here. Coach Mike Robertson, I'm sure he's seen them before. He's no stranger to the Mustangs of Madison Academy. For Hokes Bluff, with Ashton Goulage, they're going to want to line up and just run the ball right at you, and that is something you have to keep an eye on. With the Hokes Bluff Eagles, Mike Robertson's team is going to face off against Madison Academy on the road in the first round of the playoffs. How about the Pleasant Valley Raiders making their first playoff appearance in a long time? And they get a trip to face Coach Pruitt and the Pisgah Eagles. Pisgah is playing as good of a football as anybody in 2A. They obviously fell to Fife right there. This is a team that made these semifinals a year ago before falling to Fife. And for Coach Pleasant Valley and Jonathan Nix, it's gravy just to be here, to be in the playoffs. They know they're only going to get better as the years continue. For Coach Nix and the Pleasant Valley Raiders, they're making a trip to face Pisgah, who's a very good Class 2A team. One of the most anticipated games in the state of Alabama is a rematch. And boy, this one is going to be personal for Mark O'Brien and for Spring Garden. This is Spring Garden, Coosa Christian, a rematch. The fourth time they've played in 2 seasons. The third time they've played in 2 seasons out at Spring Garden. It might get chippy. It might get pushy. There may be a lot of flags. There might be a fight. It's going to be intense. Coosa Christian wants to put as many points as possible on the board against Spring Garden. Well, they didn't put 20-something on them in the regular season. That was 4+ turnovers for Spring Garden. All eyes are on this one. It's a much-anticipated rematch. Mark O'Brien, Coosa Christian going on the road to Spring Garden to face Coach Ragsdale's team. What a game. A lot of steak sandwiches will be sold. This is a great place to be Friday night. Coosa Christian, Spring Garden. All eyes on this one. We will see who gets the job done in the rematch. Last one's the Raglan Purple Devils going to Valley Head. This is a 3 seed that I think is going to win in Raglan. This is a team that has played very good at times this season. Valley Head right there, kind of the only reason they're getting that home playoff game is because of what happened to Coosa Christian right there. But Raglan's going to Valley Head. That's the final East Alabama game that we're going to talk about. And that is going to do it. Gerhard did most of the talking for us today. But as always, come back tomorrow. Tomorrow is Friday. We're going to talk Weaver Bearcat basketball with Coach Wynn. So don't miss that tomorrow for all you Weaver Bearcat fans. As always, I'm Namath Pitts, the host of the Locker Room. Thank you for tuning in. God bless. And as always, we will see you next week. You've been watching the Locker Room presented by Ted's Floors and Beyond.